Jelani, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
I'm happy to be here, Greg. Happy to be here,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah. We have a mutual friend, the a great supporter of the show, a great friend of mine, Andrew Klein at Park Lane, made the introduction. You guys met out at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. We got into some deep conversation um, in the middle of a party. We were just really tuned into this moment, and we came out of it, really good friends. So it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Andrew can go deep. It's sort of one of the things I love about him, and just knowing a little bit about your story and reading a little bit about how the idea for Postseason app came, and where you're coming from. You guys both, I think, dealt with some of the mental challenges that when sports ends and it can end abruptly. It's like, where do I go now? How do I find purpose? This is something that's I've identified with my entire career. Is that one of the things that you guys were able to kind of talk about?
Yeah, that was the main thing. I was getting an idea of kind of his story and how because I was very inspired by where he is now, and I always like to ask athletes, since that's my line of work, how was the transition for you? I know for me it was super challenging. So we really bonded over that to some extent. And every athlete I speak to really has their own kind of unique story because it's such a unique experience. It's complex.
Yeah, there's so much about your background I want to get into. Beforehand, maybe just take a sec and give us the quick little elevator pitch.
Yeah. So a postseason or me, my pitch, my
I'd
life or
like to know a
postseason.
little bit about you, and then we'll dive into postseason.
Yeah. So, I'm Jelani Jenkins. I played 5 years in the NFL, grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland. That's actually where I'm at now, at my home. Um, yeah. I'm very passionate about helping athletes transition out of the game. It's very personal to my story, the challenges that I had going through my transition, through depression, through figuring out who I was. And ultimately it really led me down this path. And I'm obsessed now with finding solutions to support athletes through their process. And so that's where I'm at now, CEO of Postseason, and we're getting it popping.
I love it. And what does postseason do exactly?
It's an app that helps athletes with their transition out of the game. And so basically we have an educational component where we host online courses, partner with different coaches and experts to create those courses. And then we have just live virtual workshops. And then on our app, athletes, they become members of it, mainly elite level athletes from college to professional. They become members of it and have access to the educational content and engage with it alongside other athletes. And our tech is, it supports community in terms of connecting athletes based on their challenges, based on their interests, and ultimately sort of creating a sort of team environment where they're actually not just going through the educational process by themselves, but on teams. It's like gamified. So we're really looking to hone in on some of the things that are unique to sports in general. And I think because of my experience, I'm able to kind of tune into what that is, the energy of that.
Well, one of the things I read about you, just doing some research, is the amount of user research, talking to ex-players, people who are going through a similar thing that you had gone through, prior to obviously engineering and building the app. And I think the number
Yeah.
I read was like 55 interviews. I don't know if that's probably higher or what that is now, but talk to me a little bit about that process, because from a product development, entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it, I think that's the absolute most important thing there is getting out and talking to people. I think people try to like think entrepreneur is something you do like in your, by yourself. It just kind of like happens in your mind, but like it doesn't. It happens by talking to other people. Tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, so many people rush that process, and it's so key. I got so much value out of that process. And for me, before there was postseason, there was the Athlete Purpose Playbook, which is my own individual online course. I had a whole group coaching model. And in order to prepare for that coach and ultimately to build the community and kind of tell people what I'm doing, I've reached out to a lot of former Gators, former professional athletes who I played with, and had a 30 to 45 minute conversation with them, just asking them how was their transition, what were their biggest fears, what were their biggest frustrations, if they had a magic wand that can create a program that gave them everything they needed and hoped for through that transition, what would it include? And just wrote down all of these notes. And ultimately it was to the point where a lot of those individuals, they were so excited, by the questions that they wanted to know, you're about to create something, you're about to create this thing that, is everything I would ever hope and dream of. And so a lot of them have been supporters and ambassadors for what we're doing at Postseason. But ultimately that whole process, I think in a deeper sense, it made me fall in love with my target audience. Mm-hmm. Having real conversations, it really connected it from a passion standpoint of who I was speaking to. And, if it still feels like I'm serving myself, I'm serving, the younger me. I feel very connected to the people that we're serving, the athletes that we're serving. And so I think it was such a remarkable process for so many reasons, but that emotional tie to who we're serving is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's interesting with sports and coming out of sports and that transition out of sports. You especially, I think, professional sports, you get a lot of athletes who have, had success. There's a level of grit and grind and perseverance, determination. And it's really, the reason I started this podcast is just, I think that the traits, the qualities that make somebody an elite athlete and how it does translate to the business world. But, someone like yourself, you've, spent, 5 years in the NFL. I'm sure, had success there. It's time to move on to the next part of your career. It's not like you're going to start. I think it's difficult. Some people do, but like you started some like entry level job, because you haven't had any like on the ground, like actual professional experience. So entrepreneurship is a very logical next step for a lot of athletes. But the thing about entrepreneurship is typically athletes, especially someone like yourself who came from a program like Florida, and then you end up in the NFL, there's structure and there's guidance and there's coaching and there's sort of guide rails. And it's like, do these things and you do these things well and work hard and the success is going to come. But now all of a sudden entrepreneur is like the lack of any guide rails, right? There is no structure. And I think that's where you get in that situation where a lot of athletes get out and they're kind of a little lost. Like, where do I go? How do I start? Who do I trust? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. For me, I got through that process by reaching out and asking for help, asking for a mentor. This is after a year of, kind of flopping out of the water on my own, trying to figure out how to swim. You know what I mean? But ultimately, so many individuals, especially in my position, especially in this kind of macho sport, really feel like, ego kind of gets in the way of asking for help. And for me, it was the same way. We fall into this bit of isolation, and you touched on just that sudden loss of support where you're all of a sudden on your own, having to figure out, what to eat, how to use up 24 hours of your day. And it's super challenging and especially as an entrepreneur. But, it's one of those things where, if you ask for help, if you find the guidance, if you kind of seek out mentors, if you seek out, friends, like a community of like-minded individuals, it really helps through that period. I know it really did for me. And so, entrepreneurship is one of those things where I still am learning every single day,
Yeah, of course.
I don't have it figured out. And I don't think many entrepreneurs would go and have it figured out. So you just keep moving, keep learning, keep growing, and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And I think that's worked for me.
Yeah, man. No, I agree. I think it's, you can never have it figured out because it's dynamic and it's always changing. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, like, I love what you're doing. It makes so much sense, having had a chance to talk to a lot of, athletes and, athlete entrepreneur, like it is an absolute common thread across the board that there's almost this like midlife crisis that happens when you get out of sports. And you get a lot of people whose careers end at 26, 27, 28 years old, young people. And it's like the thing they've spent their entire life doing is over. And now they have to find this next, part of life. And, you talk a little bit about the mental health aspect of it and, going through a sort of depression. And, I think that's something that's, once again, they talk a lot about the kind of the macho man, not, being able to kind of talk about those types of feelings. Like what was that experience like when it ended for you?
Yeah, for me, I had this work ethic of a professional athlete and didn't really know how to, I was burning out essentially. I didn't know how to structure my time effectively. And in the weight room, you have an understanding of like when you're sore, when you lift weights, you can't lift any more weights, but I didn't know how to like tell mentally when I was sore. I didn't know how to tell mentally when I was past failure, if you will. And so I was really comparing myself to a lot of people, as social media kind of makes you do it a lot of ways. I was comparing myself. I was getting frustrated. I wasn't moving as quickly. I didn't understand my metric of success in this next phase. In sports, especially as a linebacker, I know if I make a tackle, I'm successful. I know if the fans go crazy, I'm successful. I didn't know if I was doing the right things in the next phase. And so I was just burning out and I was frustrated. I was still angry in a lot of ways with sports and didn't know at the time, but I know I couldn't watch football on television. I couldn't even be in the room if football was playing. I was really, really, really escaping in a lot of ways. One way was a heavy, heavy, heavy dose of cannabis all the time. Like I wasn't present, playing a lot of video games. I was just not eating properly. And there was this one moment where my wife, she took a picture of me. She had a Polaroid camera. She took a picture of me and the picture immediately came out, and I was in the middle of a Call of Duty game and I had these headphones on. I had a big old bong in front of me. I had like 2 empty plates on the table. I had clothes around me, just kind of disheveled. And I was smiling. I didn't know I was like going through something at the time. And I looked at that picture and I remember feeling like disgusted. I remember just looking at it and just being like, yeah, you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as in a good place as you think you are. And that was the moment that really led to my process of self-discovery. That was when I actually went and reached out to my former player of engagement with the Dolphins, who got me connected with my now mentor, who got me connected with Tony Robbins, who got me in this whole experience. And ultimately, it was just a very powerful time in my life. And it really transformed the trajectory of my life, but it was tough. It was tough. And it took me about a year or so before I got on my feet.
What, I don't want to say rock bottom, but you hit that moment and, obviously it sticks in your mind and, that's not the path you wanted to be and you were going down a path you weren't happy with. One of the things I talk a lot about is, how do you get started? And it's like, you get started. You just have to take your first step. You can't get to the finish line without taking your first step. What was that first step? Was it an email out to, you said, the personnel guy at the Dolphins?
Yeah, that was the first step for sure. It was getting besides my ego and reaching out, letting them know that I'm struggling a little bit. And these are the things I'm sort of interested in. Do you have anyone in mind that I can connect with? And immediately that just opened up so many different doors. Like I got connected with a guy, his name is Jim Neeson, and he just got me connected with so many different opportunities. One was an internship with this small business. Another was, like I said, the Tony Robbins event. That's what really led me to figure out sort of the limiting beliefs that were holding me back. Got rid of those, and all of a sudden just life just sort of opened up for me in a lot of different ways. And so that was the first initial step.
Yeah. One of the things I think that puts you in a really unique position with what you're doing at Postseason app versus I think a lot of people out there who are doing different things in the sporting world is that you lived it, you came from it, it's authentic to who you are. My assumption, and you can correct me on this, is it's pretty common for ex-athletes to have a lot of people come at them with different things, right? Different business ventures, different investment opportunities, different ways to leverage their fame or their name, image, likeness, et cetera, whatever it is. And it could probably feel somewhat exploitative. And I would assume that there's some cases where it truly is exploitative. And you can, if you're not careful, you can probably get taken for a lot of your money. Yeah. My assumption once again is that there's kind of these fences and guardrails that are put up around people, and you're leery to talk to somebody that hasn't kind of lived it.
Yeah.
Is that pretty common in the ex-athlete world?
Yeah. The lack of trust. We've been prepared for so many years that, there's sharks out there, like exactly like you said, they're going to do everything that they can to, be exploitative and not really have your best interests at heart. And so that's the challenge, is that feeling of isolation when we leave the game. It's like we have been in this world our whole life where we're, around a team. For most sports, you're in a team environment, and all of a sudden you're in this space and you just don't feel like anyone else can really relate to your experience. You don't feel like anyone else can really understand what it's like being an athlete. I think the closest thing is like the military or veterans who experience kind of like where they're in this space where no one else can really relate to them. And then tap onto that, the lack of trust, when someone else is coming to you with different things, is you just kind of put yourself in this bubble and you don't really know who to trust and who to be around, or who has your best interests at heart. So it's super challenging. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're looking to tackle, if you will, is surrounding athletes with a community of other athletes who are going through similar challenges and really growing together, creating that feeling of camaraderie together. I think that was the biggest thing I experienced through that market research process, is everyone misses that camaraderie. Everyone misses, and everyone feels like no one else can really relate to them and they're going through it by themselves. And so, yeah, it's super huge, and it's key.
Yeah, I love that concept of the kind of the virtual locker room. That's a big component of the Postseason app, right? It's that idea that you're not just providing them with content and different courses and those types of things, but you're trying to build that community, that these people have a kind of a safe place to go and other like-minded people and share ideas, sort of rebuild that brotherhood.
Yeah. I mean, when we were playing, the head of player development, those individuals who would have that role, they would always bring in people to speak to us in our team rooms, and we not just be listening to them one-on-one, but we would be in a group environment. We'd have an opportunity to communicate about it and talk about it. And so, traditionally, online education is done in a lonely, isolating environment. You go to something like Skillshare or like your YouTube University, it's just you and the computer and you're learning and stuff like that. But that's not the athlete experience. We're used to doing things as a group. We're used to moving towards a goal in unison. And so that's the whole point of it, really, is to recreate that support system that exists within elite athletic organizations.
So you're the second guest I've had on the show that played for Urban Meyer in college. Yeah, you played with them at Florida. I had John Madsen. John Madsen played with him way back when he was still the coach at Utah. Lot about Urban and the news, I think, with his, how things went with him in the NFL. How was your experience with Urban? I mean, obviously.
Yeah. No, I had a really good experience. I think, he's one of the best coaches I've ever played for. I developed so much as a player, mentally tough. Like, all of that was developed playing under Urban Meyer. There was, I was in the experience where he left the Gators, due to the heart situation that he was going through. So that was a little intense, if you will. I think for me, I was one of Urban's quote unquote guys. I was in kind of the leadership group. I was a program guy, as he would say. I did the right things. I was very coachable. I will say, if you were not in his group of guys, that he would walk right by you. That was kind of his personality. But ultimately, I know Urban in a lot deeper way than a lot of athletes. He was very hands-on with one of the Christian groups that I was a part of in college, Athletes in Action. He got counseled by the same guy who was counseling us players. And so, I've spent time at Urban's lake house and, got a chance to know him as a person. He's an amazing person. ultimately, he's a winner. He's kind of a win at all cost kind of guy. He's very intense and passionate, so I'm a fan of Urban. I don't know what the heck happened in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Outside in, that's kind of wild, but he's one of the best coaches to ever coach the game.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That guy's just had success everywhere he's went. I was talking to John Matson, and he was saying that he's like, yeah, it basically echoed a lot of what you said. And he's like, I could see how in the NFL it could rub a couple of guys the wrong way. I mean, it's obviously college athletes and, NFL athletes a little bit different.
Yeah.
You were, literally one of the top recruits in the country coming out of high school. All the big publications, et cetera. You're, I think, ranked number 1 linebacker, top 10, just overall player in general. I read this on your Wikipedia page. I think this is awesome. I want to hear more about this. Your parents devised a 3-page matrix of your college choices, breaking down schools by categories such as world academic ranking, graduation rates, diversity, and number of NFL picks in the past 5 years. You obviously ended up in Florida. Is that a true story?
Yeah, you forgot proximity to Chipotle. That was another big.
Oh man, that didn't make. They must have took that down.
That didn't make it on Wikipedia. No, but that was at the time I'm a kid. I never experienced any other athletes' experience. So I didn't know it was that big of a deal until people had brought it up. But yeah, it's very true. We figured out sort of the 10 categories that meant the most to me. One of those being proximity to Chipotle, the others being like how many guys are going to the NFL, graduation rate, all those things. But all the schools that were recruiting me, I had like 50 something scholarships, and just ranked all of those schools 1 to 10 through the rankings. And at the end was able to highlight, okay, these are the 10 schools that are the top ranking and have the highest points. And Florida was one that stood out on all of those groups, and a couple of others like Penn State, USC, Stanford. So yeah, that really helped me zone in on 5 to 6 schools that I was able to really make the decision off of that base instead of trying to decide from 50. It was just a way to kind of zero everything in. And it was super, super powerful. Friends have told me that I need to write a book about that process and put it out because, it was very helpful.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Your parents, once again, I read this, your dad's architect, your mom was a college athlete as well. So obviously, academics and something that was really important to them. And So what was your degree at Florida?
Yeah, it was applied physiology and kinesiology. So okay. I was really, I think I went that route because I wanted to be a better football player. Ultimately, I'm not in that profession now, but I really am passionate about just biomechanics and just the potential of the human body. And so I was very fascinated with that. I'm overall like spiritual person. And so I really just love the idea of the potential of the human body and, how that relates to the world and all those different things. And so, yeah, that's the route I went.
I like it. Did you go to the combine? Were you invited to the NFL combine?
I was. That was crazy. It was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just watching that kind of on ESPN this week. First of all, holy hell, people, is it me or has everyone gotten faster? Like these 40 times are unbelievable.
Yeah. It's one of those things where no one believes it until they see it. And, every year their records are being broken because people can see it. And these kids are setting their mind to bigger goals, obviously. It's kind of one of those things, the mindset. You ever heard of the blanking on his name, the Bannister effect, Roger Bannister, the 4-minute mile.
Yeah. Where nobody could break the 4-minute mile. And then.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, everyone was breaking it. Everyone ran 4-minute miles, but they had to see it first before they believed it. So you just got a bunch of kids in this next generation who are seeing it and believing they can do it and realizing it was always possible. They just had to believe it. So next year is going to be even crazier. The year after that, it's going to be even crazier. It's going to end up going down probably in the 4-1s at some point. I believe.
Yeah. I mean, some of the guys that are running, the size of them and the speed of them. I know you're one of those guys too, right? I mean, I know you're a track dude. Obviously big enough to play linebacker in the NFL, but God, who did I see? I saw some D end for like Mississippi State. Someone run like a 4.38.
Yeah.
Is that it? I mean, that's see that. Elite.
Yeah, I know what I saw. I saw somebody run a 4.8.
You're talking about that dude from Georgia, right?
Yeah, big boy.
Yeah.
So that was special. Yeah, it's a different breed. We're in a whole different world right now than we were when I was playing. You know, so it's cool.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, and you had a nice little career, right? I mean, I know it was relatively, short, I guess, in the big picture of things. I mean, you end up starting your second year in, lead the team in tackles, 110 tackles. Like, I mean, at that point, you probably thought you were, 10 more years ahead of you, right? I mean,
I thought we was going to the finish line. Injuries hit me my fourth year, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. But yeah, I just knew we was going to the finish line with that.
Yeah. And what teams were those? Who's your quarterback then?
I had Tannehill at the Dolphins. Yeah, it was Tannehill. We had a receiver, Mike Wallace. Hartline was there my first year. Apologies. I mean, I'm at home. I got it may ring a little bit more. Sorry. But yeah, we had
by the way, I'm just impressed you have a ground line. I didn't know people still had like old school ground lines.
Yeah. My mama's old school. So yeah. Apologies for that. But ultimately, we had a really talented team. Our defense was really talented. But we didn't really make anything happen in the grand scheme of things. We beat New England, which was pretty cool. That was kind of my breakout game, beating New England at home. So
yeah, Tom Brady, huh? That must have been like a dream come true, getting a chance to play against that guy.
Yeah, I went into, it was like the second game of the season, and he was I had a linebacker in front of me, Donnell Ellaby and Philip Willer, and they both went down in like the first series. And so I went into the game one-on-one. It was me and Tom Brady. He was just he was going over, like he had Gronkowski and Shane Vereen, and they were just going at me back to back to back to back to back. And I actually played really well. We ended up winning that game, and their percentage was very low. And that was like the second game of the season. That was the start to my career, essentially. So I had that opportunity, and that's kind of how it took off.
That so sounds like what everybody says about Tom Brady. I just see you coming in there, and it's just like, oh, like I'm picking on this rookie right now, and like I'm just going after this guy, and you probably earned a little bit of his respect by going out there and playing well.
I think so. I think I did. I think in the press conference, I don't think he knew my name. I think he said number 53, but he gave me a little shout out, but he said 53. So after that, I talked to him a few times, and other games and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a cool little story.
Love it. So where are you now with Postseason app? You raising capital? You bring in any outside investors? You funding this yourself? Okay, you are. Yeah,
we're raising capital. We just started our seed round. Have some really great opportunities. Have an investment broker team who's leveraging their network in a lot of ways. Have about 3 other really, really promising opportunities, like second or third calls with different venture capitalist firms, family offices. So that's been a very interesting process. And I do not really like asking for money. I'm sure a lot of people don't. But it's been cool. You know, I'm learning a lot. I'm growing a lot. You mentioned something earlier where you kind of teach and share how, you know, you just got to kind of go for it. You got to just, you're not going to have all the answers. I think so many people get stuck trying to figure out how, and not really leaning enough into just why and just moving forward and learning and kind of building the plane as you're on the way down. And I think that's been the biggest thing to my success with Postseason is I'm a first time tech CEO, but I really surrounded myself with really smart people. And I'm just, you know, every single day learning on the job, moving forward, growing. And it's been a great process. So it's not always about the how, it's about the why. And the why is what really gets me up every day and makes me go insane.
Makes you go insane. Yeah, I would. That resonates with me just in regards to get you out of bed in the morning. I think that's one of the greatest things about entrepreneurship is it's not a job, right? Like you're not working a job right now. Like you're building something that you're passionate about, that you believe in. You know, it's a new challenge every day. You're taking on things that are new. It's like you pop out of bed and it's like, you know, you got a day ahead of you, right? In many cases, you don't know what the day is going to bring. Right. It could go in a lot of different directions.
A lot of different directions. And remind me, Greg, you were an athlete, right?
Yeah, I was a college athlete. I played, me and Andrew Klein played together.
That's what I thought.
So I was a much bigger guy at that time. I actually played left tackle.
Is that right?
I did. Yeah. So I'm about 215 now. I played at like 295, if you can believe that.
That's awesome.
And I'm 6'4", 6'5", so you can't tell I'm sitting down here.
Yeah.
I got a decent sized frame, but
incredible. So you understand kind of like just how the athlete mindset and the athlete personality transitions into the entrepreneurship world.
Yeah.
That's
why I started this whole thing, you know, and, you know, just a little bit about it. The genesis of it was you know, I got done and you know, probably went through some similar situations. I was much younger in my career and, you know, I didn't go on and play the NFL, but it was like, all right, what now? And, you know, trying to find my way and got into entrepreneurship and started a company and just try to figure it out as I went. And, you know, and kind of as my career went on, I've had success, and I would always, first of all, when I would talk to my team, it was like, they used to make fun of me because everything was a sports analogy. Right. It was like everything I would compare to sports in some way or another.
Same here.
Yeah. And then I started to get like interviewed, and I actually started to be a guest on some podcasts, and people would always be like, you know, try to get to the underlying of, you know, how have you gotten to where you've gotten to, or what's been important, or what are the lessons you've learned in life, or, you know, those types of things. And it would always come back to my athletic background, just like from the, you know, we talked about the band of brotherhood and building a team. And, you know, I mean, I would even say stuff like, you know, it's like the old, it's like you could have that guy in the team that's the most talented dude out there, but if he's a cancer, if he doesn't get into like the culture, you're actually better off just getting rid of that guy and moving on, right? Like addition by subtraction. And then just like work ethic, right? Like, dude, we all know so many guys that were so athletic and so talented and could do all the things that, you know, anybody needed to do, but they just weren't able to put the effort in, or they weren't coachable. That was a word you used earlier. Coachable.
Yeah.
Dude, coachable is everything. Got to be coachable.
Everything. Yeah.
And then it was almost like a little bit of a dare. I talked to a friend about it. I was like, you know, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And he's like, whatever, you're not going to do that thing. And I'm like, no, watch me. I'm going to do this thing. And I put this together, and, you know, we're, you know, whatever, maybe 40 episodes in or whatever it is. And it's just, I just love it, man. I love talking to people like you. I just have all the respect in the world for athletes in general, and especially for entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship is one of the hardest things in the world. And, you know, I'll just kind of wrap it up with this. I think they're similar in regards to everybody wants to be an athlete. Everybody wants to be a professional athlete. And you know what? Everybody wants to be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And both of them are hard as hell, and you got to dedicate your life to them, and you got to work your ass off. And yeah, you got to have a little bit of talent, but you got to be willing to persevere, and you're going to take losses along the way, and you got to be able to kind of pick yourself up after those losses and keep going. And that's where I see that big connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Resilience is huge. It's huge. I love that, man. I love that. And, I'm just starting a podcast called the Next Play Mentality Podcast. Yeah, we're doing our third episode. But it's so funny when you said that, because all of our core values, like I'm really, really big on culture, obviously coming from athletes, coming from sports, and all of our core values are like old sports terms that I learned along the way. Next play mentality being one of them, just talking about resilience, play to win, embrace your role, know the score, like just different things like that. Yeah. So there's so many aspects of sports that intertwine with entrepreneurship in the business world. And I love that you're helping athletes. I know you have more than just athletes in your audience, but I love that you're shining a light for those who need to hear it, of how to really tap into their best selves and really tapping into their own inner athlete, their own athlete mindset, because we all have the ability to be athletes. You don't have to play sports to do so.
That's right.
So
that's right. What's the name of your podcast again? I want to check it out.
It's the Next Play Mentality. There's not one episode out right now. Okay. Nothing's out yet. We've shot 2 episodes. I have 2 co-hosts, Josh Evans, who I played with the University of Florida. He played with the Jaguars as well. And then Heritier Lumumba, who played in the AFL, Australian rules football. So yeah, we're excited about it. It's really just touching on the transition, having that next play mentality and learning how to be present, and ultimately feeling empowered that you always have another play to be great, so.
I love it. There's a lot there. I mean, I've been kind of incubating some thoughts on, books and different talks, but I love that next play mentality, and just even some of the way you worded some of those different principles that just tie to sports. I think there's like a book in your future, man. I think what would be an interesting story to tell, it's really a story of entrepreneurship and perseverance in life, but using athletics as the lens to tell that story too. I think it'd be an interesting story. I think people would get it. There's a lot of sports fans out there that would just enjoy reading something like that, That's cool that you're putting that together. Keep going with that.
Yeah. Thank you for that reflection. I appreciate that, man. Like the lifestyle athlete, I really try to tune into that. I ran a marathon last year, and ultimately the practice, the training of it really got me disciplined and moving quicker and more efficient in so many different areas of my life. And I think every one of us can really tap into that lifestyle athlete mentality where you're training, your body is optimal, you're fit for service, as I like to call it, where you're able to, really make an impact and contribute to society in a meaningful way. But that you're carrying yourself in a lot of ways like an athlete would carry themselves, with a mindset, playing to win, having a vision that you're excited about, being the championship of your life, and all those great things. So I love that.
Yeah. The marathon, that's on my bucket list. I've just, that's something I set a goal for myself. I still haven't done it. I keep pushing that one off. How was the training for that?
Oh man, it's tough, but it's exciting. I was doing it with 3 other individuals. That accountability is really what was the motivating factor for me to keep moving. That's one of the things that really drove me and motivated me in sports, was not letting my teammates down. So training with others who were doing the same thing, is really what got me through the tough times. And also, if you haven't read the book already, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Right. Yeah, there it is. Exactly.
I mean, and this is well read. Yeah, no, it's legit.
Yeah. That one is what got me from thinking I couldn't do more than 1 mile to 4 miles. And then it's what got me to say, you know what, I'm gonna train for a marathon. Initially, I was going into this phase of being a mindset coach. I was really inspired by Tony Robbins in a lot of ways. Mindset was something that I grew up with from my father, and I wanted to be a mindset coach. And I figured if I can't overcome this limiting belief that I can't run over 1 mile or I can't run over 4 miles, if I can't overcome it, then how am I going to help others overcome their limiting beliefs? And so I really, trained myself to have the identity of a marathon runner and ended up running it. But the motivation for that initially was because I wanted to be a mindset coach. And now I've run 2 of them in total. So that book, Can't Hurt Me, was a game changer for sure.
Yeah. Anybody else out there, Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins, unbelievable read. If you enjoy this podcast, believe me, you'll love this book. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, I read that book and there's just so much that like, I kind of try to take with me in my own journey. I mean, I'm in the process right now of launching another startup, and we're going to be in that process of the raising capital and all those other things, along with other things I'm doing in life. And I mean, it's a grind, that. And, part of raising capital is a little bit of rejection and, kind of just justifying things. And, it's so easy to make excuses for yourself. And I mean, there was one thing I heard him say, it wasn't in the book. I think I heard him on social media say it, is I don't negotiate with myself. Mm-hmm. And I took that as like, if I set something that I'm going to do, there is no question in my mind that I'm going to accomplish it, because I think we all get in our own heads and we start to make justifications for why you're not going to follow through on something like that. And he's like, I don't do it. I don't negotiate with myself. And I love that. Yeah. It just it resonates so well with me.
Yeah. He teaches very clearly, just like the areas of our mind that tries to like take the easy way out, just like the natural tendency to take the path of least resistance. And, so many of us fall into it. I fall into it like sometimes, and so many of us do, but understanding how the natural mind works allows you the ability to really be able to overcome those tendencies to remain in sort of the inertia of, laying in bed, or like just all those different things. And so it's such a powerful book. Like you said, if anyone wants a good read, I actually listened to the audio experience. Mm-hmm. It's an awesome way to experience it as well. They have like it's like a podcast mixed with the audible read. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. My buddy listened to the audiobook. He told me the same thing. He actually said, it's I guess kind of the writer does the voice, or, the ghostwriter does the voice. Yeah. And then after every chapter, they bring in David, and then they just have conversations about the chapter before.
Yeah. It's pretty special. I would definitely recommend doing it that way. I was training, listening to it. Like I would run and listen to David Goggins in my ear, like, stay hard.
You're on mile, 4, and you're ready to quit. And he's talking about how he's on mile 74 of some ultra marathon and his blisters on both feet. And you're like, exactly. I can run another mile.
Exactly. I got at least another 80% in the tank that I can't see right now.
So have you met Tony Robbins? Have you had a chance to work with him direct?
Not work with him direct, but I did get a chance to meet him backstage after the first Unleash the Power Within conference I went to. His hands are massive, man.
He's a big dude, right?
He is huge. I mean, shaking his hand was just like he just swallowed my hand. It was an awesome experience. He's incredible at what he does, for sure.
Yeah, I have not had the privilege to go to one of his events. I did watch something there. I think he had a show on Netflix or something like that where they did like
I'm not sure.
It was actually right before. What's that?
I'm not sure, Guru or something like that.
Yeah. I think so. It was like right before COVID, and it was kind of like the lead up between it and all his live events. And then it talked a little bit about the transition and how it wasn't the same. But when you actually see, first of all, the amount of work that he puts into it is like really fascinating. You think a guy like that at this point would kind of phone it in, which he does not do at all. But then when you actually watch him and what he's able to accomplish, like how intuitive he is. And like, it's almost like he's got like a sixth sense with people and the ability to like read people and see things. It's like, dude's a special guy. I mean, you see how he's been as successful as he has.
Yeah, for sure. He talks a lot about just patterns and pattern recognition, and he just put in hours and hours and hours and hours at his craft, speaking to people, helping people have breakthroughs. And the way he calls it, he just has like patterns of success, patterns of excellence, where he's seen things so often where he's able to just kind of join it in his head of like, okay, this is what you're going through. This is what you're going through. His mind is incredible. I've studied him for a long time, and some of the things that his techniques, I mean, it only comes with hours and hours and hours of, like you said, just patterns and pattern recognition. So yeah, he's an incredible person. I'm very inspired by the work he does, and I ultimately see myself at some point writing books and speaking on stages with a lot of people in front of me, cheering and all of that. So
Yeah. Have you had the chance? Have you had the opportunity to do that much? Like get in front of large audiences and talk? Yeah.
Yeah. Large, not to that extent nearly, but definitely have like just schools and virtually have done. I really jumped into that role a lot during COVID. After I stopped playing, COVID really happened pretty quickly after. So virtually, I've been on a couple big, large panels, but other than that, no, not yet. It's on the vision board though.
I love it. You do the full vision board?
I do the full
Goggins too? Yeah.
Yeah. I got it for so many people, the vision board. I mean, I'm really big into visualization and all of that. Visualize your best life, feel it now, all those things. Manifesting.
I love it, man. Well, you're on your way, bro. You're crushing it. When do you expect to go full launch with Postseason app?
Mid-May we'll be ready to go. That'll be the beta version. It'll continue to iterate. We'll have like our version 1 completed, probably like July, August, just all of the different things that we want to implement. But mid-May, we'll be ready to bring people into the app.
I like it. Are you working directly with the NFL at all?
We're working on some partnerships with certain teams. Our main target are colleges and universities, and having them sponsor their student athletes that first year out the game. That's where we see like the biggest gap right now. Ultimately, we plan on working with like current athletes as well, like in the college as well. But initially, we're finding like the most traction, pre-launch, pre-product, with primarily focusing on kind of establishing partners with the alumni and the booster programs and the athletic departments for the athletes that first year out.
Have you had any of your ex-teammates or any guys you played with that have been interested in coming on board and joining and be part of the team?
Yeah, a couple. So initially we had like an outsourced platform that we were using, a third-party platform. We had an app, all those things. We got featured on Forbes. Like that was back in July. Mm-hmm. And I had 10 athletes on the platform. 3 of them I played with before. And all we had was my course, the Athlete Purpose Playbook. Now we'll have multiple courses, but leading up into this one, we have a couple of NFL ambassadors who've joined the platform. Jordan Reed, Kenny Stills, Kiko Alonso, all guys who I have played with at some point. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. It was a pleasure to speak with you. You're a really fascinating guy, and I love your approach to all this and just how introspective and thoughtful you are, and then just sort of your ability to just grind, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just you just seem like you're really comfortable with like you got a goal and a vision for who you're going to be, and you're willing to do the work, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you for having me. I think this is an awesome opportunity. So many nuggets came out of this. I learned a lot, I really did, just through our conversation. So, looking forward to many more conversations.
Take care.
All right.